Hello there, and I don't know what episode this is, but this is the next episode of the podcast that I've been doing for a little bit. And last night was UFC 272, Covington versus Masvidal. It wasn't a bad card. I did say on Twitter that I felt like I wasn't as hyped up for this as I think I should have been, but anyway, it wasn't a bad card. Like I said, it was a perfectly acceptable card. It kind of was a bit of a disappointment given how gassed up the whole thing was, but you know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't absolutely bad. So then, uh, let's just get right into it for the UFC 272 recap. I missed the early prelims, but I heard Umar Nurmagomedov did some good things, and I like Umar. He's a good prospect. He's not a good dick. He's not a massive dick. He definitely isn't ready for the top 5 or top 10, I don't think. But putting away Brian Kelleher like that was extremely impressive. Someone else pointed this out that no one's really put Kelleher away like that, which was extremely impressive. So I definitely have my eye on Umar. I obviously, like I said, he's not ready for the top 5. He definitely is not ready for the top 5. But do I like him as a prospect? Yes. Uh, Morozov versus Agapova, however the heck you pronounce that. Well, okay, look, it's women's flyweight, so I didn't really care, and they pulled the Macy Barber style of throwing strikes from like 10 feet out. But one thing that I did do was I cheered for the Ukrainian for obvious reasons. But I was, I don't know, I guess I just cheered for the Ukrainian because of what's going on right now. But I don't care much about either. I was a little harsh on Morozov because I forgot that it was women's flyweight, but I also held it against her. So she's not bad. She's not bad. She's genuinely not bad. The light heavyweight fight was really, really dumb. I tweeted about this. It was a pressure fighter. Well, a guy who had to pressure, who doesn't know how to pressure properly and squares up on everything and throws his face forward when he throws his punches, versus a long guy who didn't use his length properly and was getting away with an absolute mess of footwork by just being absurdly tall. I did not care that much about the fight. I wasn't invested in it. It was kind of boring and low level of a fight. So, yeah, I didn't really care that much. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names. Marina Rodriguez versus Yan Xiaonan. Okay, look, I was hoping for a banger because I really, really was kind of annoyed that this wasn't on the main card, whereas we got Greg Hardy on the main card, which I'll talk more about later. But Xiaonan made her look stupid by just cutting her off in short entries because Rodriguez kind of needs to chase after you in combination, and she loads up a lot. She basically only throws punches when her hands are at 90-degree angles. Xiaonan looked a lot faster than Rodriguez, and Rodriguez is kind of an example of like a traditional Muay Thai fighter because she is a bad wrestler, but she's good in the clinch, with the double collar tie and the traditional Thai clinch and the knees up the middle. But she forgot to put a whizzer in. She didn't know when to put in the whizzer. She had a claw ride and didn't take Xiaonan down, which was quite a funny moment. I agreed with the decision, if I'm being honest. Optics and commentary would make you think that Xiaonan got robbed, but I think Rodriguez probably won. Jalen Turner versus Jamie Malarkey was a good one. It was a nice finish. Malarkey's tough, and I like him, but I have my eye on Turner. He's not, obviously, I think his takedown defense needs work, and he is abysmal, absolutely abysmal in the pocket. But what he is very long. He's pretty good on the ground, and he's young. He's 26, so he definitely has time to improve. So I have my eye on Turner. Like I said, don't think he is in any shape or form ready for anyone at the top. Even like Arman Saryukian would probably fuck him up. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Not a bad fight, and not a bad prospect. I mean, Sergey Spivak versus Greg Hardy. Okay, look, I haven't even heard of Spivak before I watched this, but obviously I cheered for him because it's Greg Hardy, and he tossed Greg Hardy on his head and completely ground and pound him out. I mean, Greg Hardy is just absolutely abysmal. He's just a big heavyweight a super athletic big heavyweight, and he's so bad he can't even out athlete low level heavyweights. He just got tossed on his head and ground and pounded. Like when we say that the athletic caliber of UFC heavyweights is bad, where like an NFL level athlete could just steamroll everyone. We mean an NFL level athlete who's a competent fighter, which Greg Hardy is not. I can't even begin to describe. Like I can. He's the only fighter who like really sucks. Where I can reduce it to he just sucks on the ground, or he sucks at this because he literally has absolutely nothing to him. And in retrospect, him surviving that fight with Volkov is really just it's Volkov. I mean, Volkov doesn't really finish people, except for like freaking what's his face? Except for freaking always chinny Alistair Overeem. So yeah, Volkov is kind of looking bad in retrospect. Kevin Holland versus Alex Oliveira. That was a good. It was a good debut for Holland in the sense that he looked the same as he normally does. I think the speed differential is just down to the fact that he's fighting a smaller guy. But his takedown defense and grappling in general still looked. I don't want to say bad, but not as good as I'd like for it to look, considering that welterweight is kind of the land of the wrestlers, as we'll get to later. But I like Kevin Holland, and the funny moment was when he was almost in a rear naked choke, but Oliveira had it around the arm instead of underneath his chin, so Holland just flashed the thumbs up. And when I saw it live, I thought that it was cinched in until I saw the thumbs up. Bryce Mitchell versus Edson. Okay, look, I want to give Mitchell some credit because he is a good wrestler and he's got a good top game, but he's very uncomfortable with getting hit. And he looks really janky on the feet. I also would partially put this down to Eds. I think Edson is probably shot, at least durability wise, because of the knockdown. Would I say he's shot? I mean, one of the things that people were saying was that Bryce should be able to wrestle him skill wise, but he's also not nearly the kind of athletic force that has troubled Edson in the past. I mean, before this, who's really out wrestled him? Kevin Lee and Khabib, the two of the best wrestlers in lightweight history, and two of the best athletes in lightweight history, and he's only really like heavily gassed against Khabib and Tony Ferguson, who two of the cardio machines in UFC history. But at the same time, he went. I don't know how to explain it. He gassed out more than he should have, I think. In addition to his chin being gone, I will put part of this down to Edson being shot, but credit to Mitchell. Edson, he's still a decent fighter because his kicks have lost pop, but they didn't look absolutely bad. He offered some, but not as much resistance as I like as he went to the ground, and he's always had a weakness to pressure, even if he looked mildly improved against Shane Burgos. So, yeah, do I like Mitchell? I think Mitchell's an okay prospect. I think he dies against most of the top five. Cater kills him. Like Cater would absolutely kill him. So yeah, I think Mitchell's ceiling is like fringe elite. Kind of like Dan Hooker at 155, probably. He might beat Yair, or maybe that's just my anti-Yair bias talking. But he would not beat Ortega, I don't think. He would get pummeled by Cater. Holloway would destroy him because Mitchell especially hates getting hit to the body. He might have more success against Volk than he should because Volk's takedown defense is still kind of sus to me. But I cannot pick Bryce Mitchell over Volk. So yeah, Mitchell is fringe elite as of now at best. That seems to be his ceiling. RDA versus Moicano. It was nice to see RDA, an old veteran, a BMF, pick up a win. I'm not going to talk about the Makachev situation because I've already had multiple arguments on Twitter about it. But, I mean, RDA looked really good. He definitely isn't as good as he used to be. And his defensive reactions looked a lot slower than normal, but his timing still looked okay. His ground and pound was as vicious as ever. And all the props in the world to Moicano for surviving, even if the fight definitely should have been stopped. Uh, you know, between the rounds. His face was a complete mess, and I don't know why they just didn't stop it. Do I think he could have done better at the full cap? No, because the early rounds still didn't go well for him. But the thing is, the scorecards kind of signaled bad scoring for the rest of it, where uh, how the hell did you give Moicano a round? I mean, even if I assume he won the fifth, which, 49-45 is hilarious. That implies that RDA didn't get a single 10-8 round when there's a real argument for a 50-42. So, bad scoring, and the judges the whole night were kind of. Well, the judges from then onward were dumb, which gets me to the main event: Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. Okay, now, do I think Jorge is shot? Mostly. I don't think he's completely gone, but I do think he's definitely past it. He's not. He's defensive reactions looked a lot slower. He has lost a lot of pop on his kicks. He wasn't countering Colby as much. Colby was just able to make him shell up in kind of a sad way. Because the thing is, like, Jorge got hurt by Till, and he's been hurt by other guys, and he didn't just shell up and let you hit at him. He actually his defensive reactions were actually worked at the time. He was weaving around. And granted, the moment that I'm talking about was in the fourth round, but the bigger thing to me is that he looks much slower early. His kicks weren't, the pop on them wasn't as big as they used to be. So yeah, Jorge looked bad, and this kind of emphasized to me that Jorge really is kind of the ATT fighter. I said that his ring craft was shaky. He is great at defending takedowns against the fence, but and he blasts calf kicks. Not bit reductive, but it's kind of a meme statement that I made. Definitely wasn't a fight of the night, and 50-44 is ridiculous. Jorge probably won the second. And I think he definitely won the fourth because of the flash knockdown. It wasn't a wide fourth round win, but it was a perfectly fine fourth round win. And I don't see how he didn't edge it due to the knockdown. That's, damage over control. That's what everyone has been saying for a long time. And I also tweeted this live, and at first I thought this, but I realized just how wrong I was. I was like, oh, they both look bad. No, Kobe just looked normal, and if anything, he looked improved because he actually against Usman. I said that he looked scared to throw volume, and now he doesn't look scared to throw volume, and Kobe's just his normal self. I mean, Kobe is a really, really good fighter. Okay, when I say he's great. He's great in the worst way possible. He is a god awful striker in pretty much every way. He's got meh top control, but not terrible top control. Just meh. He is a good chain wrestler, but his phase shifting and initial shots are pretty meh. Bad in terms of the phase shifting. His initial shot isn't horrible, even if he's extremely sloppy at times. He relies on the clinch to control, but he kind of sucks in the clinch other than head position. So he pretty much just hugs you, and he's easy to out damage from the clinch. He just does this a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot until you get tired of punishing him for the mistakes he made. I mean, RDA arguably won, and he also wins on optics. Like I said, RDA arguably won the fight against Covington by just hitting him from the clinch, and Colby just kind of held him there. Colby's in a really weird spot in terms of offensive striking, where none of his stuff does damage because he's not nearly on the level of Holloway as a striker, so he's not a damaging volume striker. So, any big damaging moment is going to just take a round from him, and this kind of makes me think. This kind of confirms to me what I thought about Colby Usman too, where I don't think Covington ever rocked Usman. I think Usman just straight up hates getting hit and has really weird defensive reactions. I mean, compare it to Lawler, post-prime Lawler against Colby, where Lawler was shelling up much worse than Usman was and looked much worse than Usman did, but Lawler wasn't rocked once and he was moving his head properly. And Lawler has always been good defensively in the pocket, whereas Usman is not. So that was kind of my various rounds. Yeah, by the way, Jorge, he's definitely, like I said, his explosiveness looked gone when he got up. So, yeah, that was not a good fight, and this made me seriously reevaluate welterweight. I think I'm much more sold on Chimaev relative to the division. So, after this, because they both look bad. And oh yeah, and Khabib got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I think he definitely deserved it. I don't really have any more to say. He definitely deserved it. I mean, I just hope that Aldo, Demetrius Johnson, Frankie Edgar, Conor McGregor, and even Henry Cejudo get their introductions. And oh, this reminds me. Even if Khabib definitely deserved it, I do think this is almost a case of Dana White privilege because DC didn't get it, which kind of confuses me. And Dana White privilege isn't the right word, but I am confused about how he got in. DC didn't get it. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, DC's been retired longer for crying out loud, and I mean, DC definitely earned it, right? Eh, I'm happy for Khabib. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he definitely earned his placement in the UFC Hall of Fame. All right, some questions. Calabip asks, does Colby ever have a chance at a title in the future? No. Uh, he's not young, and I think him and Usman may retire around the same time. Uh, I'm not going to answer like which of the top welterweights beat him because someone else already asked that question, but I'll get to that in a bit. But probably not. I don't think his entire career is basically built around the fact that he beat up a bunch of mostly past their prime fighters and is tricky for the champ. And I mean, like I said, he's a good fighter, but is he? No, I don't think he has a chance at the title. Do you think Dustin beats him? No. Dustin, look, any protracted striking exchange is going to be hilarious, but I don't trust Dustin against a big, reasonably athletic wrestler. Like I said, Covington is not only bigger than him, he's also a relentless chain wrestler, and I think Dustin is just going to get taken down and controlled. But I do think Dustin is going to hit him a lot whenever they're on the feet, and it's going to be really funny. So I hope the fight doesn't happen because I just want Dustin to make some money. So I think it'll be like it won't be an easy fight for Colby because he's going to get beat up, but at the same time, it's not going to be a particularly close fight and it's not going to be competitive at either point. So, yeah. What can Jorge still do now? I have no idea what to do with Masvidal. I think I'm going to put him in the only fight strikers thing. I mean, maybe a rematch with Wonderboy, if I'm being honest, because they're both kind of past their prime. But I think Wonderboy's fallen off a lot less. So, yeah, I think a rematch with Wonderboy is probably the best. So Goat St. Pierre asks, which a breakdown of which of the top welterweights beat Colby, and Kata MMA asks, who at welterweight beats Colby? He said it's Burns, Hamzat, and maybe Leon. I kind of agree, and honestly, Luque too. Like Chimaev, like I said, I have been a lot more sympathetic to Chimaev after seeing how truly bad welterweight was. Uh, He is a good prospect in the sense that he shows flashes of being a much better fighter. He had a nice takedown setup against Jing Liang, and he seems to have a good top game. The problem is that it's against the guy, Li Jing Liang, who got out wrestled by fucking Neil Magny. So, the other thing is, we don't know how good his cardio is, and he could be chinny as well, since he cuts a lot of weight. The chinny thing is just a big maybe. I would actually be surprised if he had a bad chin. But he cuts a lot of weight and is explosive, so there's a chance that he has bad cardio, even if all the training stories may say otherwise. And I'd also wonder if he has any depth beyond just fake high and go low. Because, like, is he the kind of face shifter that Prime Weidman was or Prime Edgar was? I don't know. The Burns fight will tell us a lot more because Burns is at a huge... Like, if Burns is at a huge physicality disadvantage, so if Chimaev just, like, fucking hulks him, I will be less sold on him than if he, like, sets up takedowns and scrambles with him or something. Because Burns seems to be the more functional striker at range and in long exchanges. So if, like, Chimaev outdoes him there, then I will be more impressed. Like, I will be more sold on him than if he just fucking hulks him. Because if he just hulks him, I'll be like, okay, he's just a middleweight fighting at welterweight, and this probably isn't sustainable. But if he can hulk him to an extent, but if he also outskills him, sets up takedowns, actually has a good gas tank when his opponent offers resistance, uh, wins exchanges with him, or outdoes him at range, or checks his kicks, then I will be more sold on Chimaev. But onto your point, I think Luque being insistent on pressuring and a good counterpuncher, and the fact that Luque is quite difficult to control, is probably going to get to Colby. I think Luque would probably damage him really badly and probably knock him down once, almost like an Aldo versus Font, where Colby will be outscoring him for the most of the round and just straight up outworking him. But then, Luque will just randomly boink him every now and then. I think that'll be a Aldo versus Font situation. Gilbert Burns, you probably fuck him up early and then lose late. He's going to kick his leg a lot. He's super annoying to grapple. He's insistent on pressuring. He feints a lot. He sucks in the clinch, but so does Colby. And he is really good in long exchanges, and he's a good counterpuncher. Really good, not really good. He's good in long exchanges compared to fucking Covington. He's a good counterpuncher, and he hits pretty fucking hard. So he might lose based on pace. I think that'll be an issue for him, but I think he'll definitely win the first 3 rounds. So Burns by either an early TKO or a one-sided decision. Well, 48-47 decision, but the first rounds will be pretty one-sided. Leon Edwards versus Colby is a really, really stupid fight because Leon should win on skill set alone. Colby could hug him against the fence in the clinch, but Leon is much better in the clinch in terms of damage. He's hard to take down from the clinch, and he's good off the break. Leon's also generally been difficult to control, so Colby is going to have some issues there, and in open space, it's not even close. Leon likes to hit your body. Colby hates body work. Leon is a good counterpuncher. Colby likes to run straight in at you. The problem is that Leon hates long engagements, and he hates guys who just insist on forcing exchanges and engagements, and he lacks a ton of depth in them. So Colby just being insistent on pushing them and just keep doing it and keep looking stupid, might result in him outworking Leon. It's kind of a stupid fight, if I'm being really honest. So I'd probably favor Luque like 70-30 over Colby. Burns 60-40. I'd favor Leon like 50-50, unfortunately. Bilal Muhammad is just a budget Colby Covington, so I would not pick him. Chimaev, depending on how he looks against Burns, I will circle around back to that. So, yeah, that's the ones I would confidently pick are Luque and Burns. Leon, probably. Now, I have some time, so I think I'll ramble a bit about the next couple of fight nights. I don't think I'm going to be talking about Blades versus Dawkins, because the original headliner was Jan versus Rakic, which is a fight I care much more about. UFC London seems fun, but I'm not gonna break that one down because it's 2 weeks away. So I think I'm gonna go with Santos versus Ankalaev, and I will break down 273 on another date. So going through this card right now, Drew Dober versus Terrence McKinney. Well, unless McKinney is some next generation prospect, like a Conor McGregor level prospect, Dober's probably going to knock him out. I don't think he's ready for Dober, if I'm being honest. Poatan versus Bruno Silva. Well, here's the thing. The weird thing about Pereira is that if you put him against Till's probably going to die. But if you put him against freaking, I don't know, Brunson, he's going to get wrestle fucked. Anyone, like any unranked guy who can just wrestle a little is really going to trouble Pereira. The problem is I don't think Silva's the type of guy to not stand with him. I think he seems like the kind of guy who's stupid enough to try and stand with Pereira. So Pereira, it's really a question of what does Silva do, and this fight is entirely in Silva's hands. So maybe Silva, if he's smart enough to wrestle, because his coach talked about wrestling, but if he doesn't, he's gonna die. So I don't know. I'm pro Pereira because I think he's pretty much the most interesting thing that could happen to middleweight right now, which is gradually growing stale. And the headliner, Thiago Santos versus Magomed Ankalaev. Well, for those of you who don't know, Magomed Ankalaev is, one of my few hopes for light heavyweight right now. Jan Blachowicz is my favorite light heavyweight, but as of right now, he's old, and the best next generation light heavyweights are Ankalaev, Rakic, and Yuri. And of them, I think Ankalaev is probably the best one, even if I think Rakic is a pretty tough outing for him. Ankalaev is a good counterpuncher. He can limit exchanges pretty well. He's a good wrestler. He has good ground and pound. I think before the Uzdemir fight, I would have said, oh, he's just a counter check hook, nothing special. Then he jabbed him up at range and made him look stupid. So I was more sold on Ankalaev after the Uzdemir fight because that's the way I want to see prospects tested. Ankalaev looks good at something, so let's put him against a guy who will make us see if he's great at those things. So, like I said, more sold on Ankh now that he beat Uzdemir and looked improved. People, look, Magomed Shitlaev is a very funny name, but if I'm being real honest, he looks fine as a whole. I just think he prefers to limit exchanges more so than more so than like someone like Yuri, definitely. So, but anyway, on to Santos. Santos is not an elite striker, which a lot of people seem to think he is. But that out of the way, I think he kind of looks a little shot. The fact that he went to a narrow decision with Johnny Walker kind of shows that he's probably shot. Now, him versus Rocket, I'll put down him getting kind of outclassed because every time he did try and press and go into his typical swinging, rah, 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 Marheta thing, Rocket just countered him a bunch or moved out of the way. So, assuming that Thiago, like I'm going to just say this is prime Thiago, and then I'm going to explain why, like the fact that it isn't prime Thiago is why I'm pretty confident in Ankalaev. Ankalaev can counterpunch, and Thiago's weakness is people can counterpunch because he swings wild and he doesn't have the chin to just take the return shots like John Lineker. And I think he's probably going to be just straight up lost on the floor with Ankh because Ankh has a very good top game. And Ankalaev, he doesn't like being kicked, so Thiago could probably make him look really worse than he actually is by just kicking him hard. But he's not the craftiest kicker, and he doesn't have the best footwork, so that's not like a tangible path to victory for him. This seems like a really bad fight for Santos, especially at this stage, and especially that Ankalaev figured out that, hey, I can jab at range and score with it. So Ankalaev by like third round TKO. I think that this is going to be a case of the old guard, of the new guard replacing the old guard. But the thing about Ankalaev, I will say this, is that Santos is almost like an IQ test for him, where do I trust him not to die against fighters he's better than? And Ankalaev has the personality of dry toast, so if he loses this, I'm going to like him a lot less than I actually do, because my like for him is entirely based on how I like him as a fighter. So, Ankalaev by mid-round TKO, and this is just his fight to lose. But if he finds a way to get knocked out, then I will like him less than I normally do, or than I do now. So yeah, anyway, that was my ramble on UFC 272 and UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Ankalaev's main event. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.